Hello everybody, this is Yoko Cinema Reactions, and yeah, I figured why not do some more Overlord. Okay. Okay, I know I'm gonna still butcher these words, I apologize. Return, Demons of Lemageddon, don't ask me. At Among Us command, the ultra-rare oral golems return to their seats and resume their positions of vigilance on lighter feet than one would expect for their builds. The first thing Umunga had done upon resigning himself to officially wondering whether his fantasy world had indeed become the real one was to guarantee his safety. The NPCs he had met a moment ago all submitted to him, but that didn't mean the ones he would meet next would. Even if they did prove to be allies, there was no telling what dangers might lie ahead. His survival could very well depend on whether or not the tomb's facilities, golems, items, magic, etc. all functioned as in the game or not, which made confirmation of these things his most urgent priority. That should be good for now, Umunga said to himself out of relief as he surveyed the golems. He ordered them to not take commands from anyone else, so in the worst-case scenario of an NPC rebellion, he would at least have one way to protect himself. Satisfied with the robust figures of the golems, he looked down at his own finger bones. There were 9 rings on his 10 fingers. The only one that didn't have one was his left ring finger. In Yggdrasil, it was normally only possible to wear 1 ring per hand, but by purchasing an expensive cash store item with a permanent effect, Umunga had gained the ability to wear them on all 10, as well as use all the powers they contained. Not that it made him very special. If a player prioritized being strong, buying that item was a no-brainer. The ring Umunga was looking at now bore the same crest that was emblazoned on the scarlet tapestry hanging behind the throne. It was the ring of Einzelgon, a magic item that every member of the guild possessed. He wore his on his right ring finger. He could use all the powers of 10 rings, but he had to choose which ones he used when he used the item that allowed him to equip that many. It was impossible to swap after the fact. Compared to his other rings, including the one he wasn't wearing, stored in the treasury, this one's power was pretty basic, but he wanted it at the ready since, in certain circumstances, he used it far more than any of the others. The Ring of Einzelgon let its wearer teleport freely to almost any named room within the Great Tomb of Nazarick. It was even possible to teleport in from outside. The tomb blocked teleportation magic except for in designated areas, so there was no more useful way to get around. There weren't very many places, save the throne room and the members' individual rooms, that couldn't be teleported to. Without this ring, however, there was no way to get to the treasury. So it wasn't something he would want to be without. Umunga exhaled deeply. He was about to exercise the ring's power, but he wasn't sure what would happen. Would it work as expected? He was anxious. He had to know. He was anxious but had to know. He unleashed the power and his vision went dark like he'd blinked. The scenery changed. Now he was in the dimly lit passage. The end was blocked by a barred gate. White artificial light came in through the gaps. Success, he murmured, relieved that he'd been able to teleport. He set off, walking down the broad, high-ceilinged passage toward the gate. The stone floor caused his footsteps to reverberate loudly. Flickering torchlight set shadows dancing along the walls, making it seem like there were more than one of him. As he neared the gate, his nostrils, which should have just been holes leading to nowhere, were invaded by scent. He stopped to breathe in and out, a pungent green odor and the scent of earth. This was the smell of deep forest. Having his nose working again like it had before with Albedo, even though it should have been impossible in the game's fantasy world, made Umunga feel even more strongly that this place was now reality. But with no lungs, no respiratory tract, how am I even breathing? He racked his brains, but soon realized trying to reason the problem out was ridiculous and abandoned the idea. When he got close enough, the gate drew quickly up into the ceiling like a well-timed automatic door. Passing beneath, Umunga saw the Colosseum, with its multiple levels of spectator seating encircling its central arena. It was an oval of 615 by 510 feet, 157 feet high, identical to the Colosseum built in Rome during the imperial period. Continual light was cast in various locations, throwing enough white light that he could look around in the area and see if it was high noon. There were too many seats to count, and in them a great many clods of dirt, no sign of movement from the golems. This place was called the Amphitheatrum. The actors were captured raiders, the audience was made up of golems, and in the VIP seating would be the members of Einzelgon. What was on the program? A slaughter, of course. With the exception of the 1,500 in that huge raid, every intruder, no matter how strong, had met their end here. For a second, I was like, what? I was like, oh, yeah, from in the game. Yeah, not Season 3 yet. No. Munga walked into the center of the arena, gazing up at the pitch-black night sky. If there hadn't been any light, he probably would have been able to see the stars. Of course, this was the 6th level of the Great Two Menagerie. Being underground, the sky hanging overhead was a false one. But it was made with quite a lot of data, so it changed with the passage of time, and there was even an accurate arcing sun that rose and set. Was the reason that even this fake sky could take the weight off Munga's chest and relax him, because under all the graphics, he was still human. Maybe also because it was programmed according to the particularities of a former guild member. He wished he would just stay and take it easy, but the situation didn't allow that. Munga glanced around. They're not here. The twins should be managing this place, but just then he felt someone looking at him. Yeah. At the same time, the shout sounded. A figure hopped down from the VIP seating. That was the equivalent of 6 stories up, but the figure flipped in midair and made a feather-light landing. It wasn't due to magic, but simply great physical technique. Having absorbed the full shock of the landing by just bending its legs, the figure flashed a proud grin and made peace signs with both hands. Victory! It was a child of perhaps 10 who had jumped down. The most apt descriptor for that smile was radiant like the sun. She had that kind of androgynous cuteness only children have. Her golden hair reflected light in a way that made it look almost like she had a halo. Her eyes, bright like a puppy's, were 2 different colors, forest green and ocean blue. As a dark elf, a relative of the elf race, her ears were long and pointed, her skin tan. She wore fitted, dark red dragon scale light armor, top and bottom, over a layer of basic leather protective gear. On top of that, she sported a white vest with golden threading featuring the crest of Einzelgoen on the chest, and white pants to match. A big golden acorn hung from her neck. Her hands were protected by gloves of magic metal plates on the back of the palms. Whips were bundled at her waist and right shoulder, and across her back she carried a bow with particular decorations on the grip handle and limbs. Wish they would just go and play somewhere else. Oh, it's Aura. Munga mumbled her name in recognition. Aura Bella Fiora was one of the guardians of the 6th level, a beast tamer ranger who could I cannot talk today, apparently. Who could employ fantastical and magical creatures. She came running toward him with short steps that somehow carried her crazily fast, like an animal running flat out. She closed the distance in an instant and put the brakes on. Her sporty shoes, inlaid on top with scarletite, set up in a cloud of dust as they scraped along the ground. If she had calculated it out so that not a speck would reach Munga, she'd done a brilliant job. Phew! She wiped her forehead even though she wasn't sweating and smiled like a puppy who wanted to play. Then she greeted Munga in the ever so slightly too loud voice that only children have. Welcome to the Fluoride Guard, little Munga. Compared to Sebas and Albedo, she was less differential and more familiar. But that was actually more comfortable for Munga. He didn't have much experience with all of this, so being overly revered only made it harder to know how to act. He wasn't getting any hostility from Aura's ear-to-ear grin, and Sense Enemy didn't pick up anything either. His emergency plan had been to attack with full power and promptly retreat, but it seemed like that would be unnecessary. Thanks, I thought I'd come bother you for a bit. What are you talking about? You are the master of the Great Two Menagerie, its absolute ruler. No one would ever feel bothered to receive a visit from you, Lord Munga. Oh, By the way, I see that you're here, Aura, but... As if taking a cue, Aura turned on her heel, glared up at the VIP seats, and shouted, Hurry up! Come on! Lord Munga is here! You're being rude! Up in the darkness of the VIP seats, Munga saw something bouncing up and down in a fidgety way. Oh, Mari's over there, huh? Yes, Lord Munga, he is. He's such a wimp. Get down here! A weak little voice replied. In fact, it was a wonder they could even hear it, considering their distance from the VIP seats, but it was made possible by the magical necklace Aura had equipped. Sis, there's no way. Aura sighed, exasperated. Ugh, Lord Munga, he's just a bit of a coward. He's not being rude on purpose. Of course I know that, Aura. I've never for a moment doubted your loyalty to me. Munga nodded and gave a kind answer to put her at ease. Adults needed to know their inner feelings as well as what was their... as well as what their outward-facing stance would be. Sometimes it was necessary to tell a little lie. Aura seemed relieved, but a moment later she turned in anger to the figure up in the VIP seats. Our elite lord has graced us with his presence, and one of the floor guardians can't even come out to meet him? That's the worst, and you know it. If you don't have the courage to move your own butt, we're going to try it with my foot instead. I'll take the stairs. You mean you're going to keep Lord Munga waiting even longer? Get over here already. Fine. Here goes. It was a pretty pathetic little shout for someone trying to psych himself up, but he did hop down. Another dark elf. The difference between him and Aura was like night and day, but although he stumbled upon landing, it didn't seem like he'd taken any damage from the fall. He must have neutralized it with pure physical ability. Then he came running at a speed that matched the sound of his light footfalls. He was giving his all naturally, but he was still hopelessly slow compared to Aura. She must have been thinking the same thing because her brow began to twitch. Hurry up! I am! The child who finally arrived looked just like Aura. Same hair color and length, same eye color, same facial features. They couldn't be anything but twins, but if Aura was the sun, then Mari was the moon. He trembled as if expecting to be chewed out at any moment. Momonga was a bit surprised by both of them. The Mari he knew wasn't like this at all. Of course, NPCs generally just stood there rigidly with their fixed expressions. It didn't matter how long of a bio they were given. It was never reflected in their personalities. Yet here they were before him, two dark elves with rapid-fire emotions. So this is how Teapot meant for them to be. Bubbling Teapot was the guild member who had set up Aura and Mari. He wished he could show them to her now. Sorry to keep you waiting, Lord Ramunga. Mari looked up at him nervously. The scale of his upper body dragon armor were more indigo than blue. He also wore a short mantle of dark green that almost exactly matched the leaves of the forest. Most of his clothes were white like Aura's, but he was wearing a skirt so short it left a little skin showing. Only a little, because of his white stockings. His acorn necklace looked just like Aura's, but silver. He wasn't as heavily armored as his sister. In his hands he wore slender white gloves with a silky sheen. He clutched a gnarled staff of black wood, and that was it. Mare Bello Fiore. He was the other guardian of the sixth level. Amunga smiled kindly, not that his empty eye socket showed it, and took a good look at the two of them. Aura proudly puffed out her chest, while Mare trembled under his gaze. Satisfied that they were indeed the crystallization of his guildmate's intentions, he nodded several times, then spoke. More than anything, I'm just glad to see you're both doing well. Yeah, we're great. Just lately it's been so boring. It'd be nice to have some raiders would come for a change. I don't want any raiders to come. They're scary. Mari's words wiped the excitement off Aura's face, and she sighed. Sorry, little Amunga. Please excuse us. Mari, come with me for a minute. Amunga gave a slight nod, and Aura moved away a bit, dragging Mari by his pointy ears. Ow, Aura, that hurts. Then she started hissing at him. Even at a distance, Amunga could tell she was giving him a scolding. Raiders? I'm actually with Mari on that one. I'd at least like them to wait until I get my feet on the ground, he thought, as he watched the twins. The next thing he knew, Mari was sitting erect with his legs tucked under him, and Aura stood before him lecturing. The situation was reminiscent of the power struggle between the two of his former guildmates who were sisters, and he smiled dryly. Geez, I didn't think Perorocino made Mari. Maybe Teapot had the idea that one should obey one's elder sister. Actually, now that I think of it, both Aura and Mari have died once before. I wonder what happened with that. In the raid where 1,500 men attacked, the huge army got as far as the 8th level. In other words, Aura and Mari died attempting to hold the 6th level, but did they remember it? What does death mean for the two of them? In Yggdrasil, characters who died lost 5 levels and dropped one of their equipped items. That meant that characters level 5 or under were destroyed. Oh. Here's hoping they were high level then. I think they were. Player characters were spared destruction by divine grace and stopped at level 1. Of course, that was speaking strictly of the rules of the game. In actuality, spells such as Resurrection and Raise Dead could ease the level penalty, and cash store items let players get off with just losing some experience points. In the case of an NPC, it was even simpler. The guild could revive a character with no penalty by paying a fee according to its level. Dying to lose levels ended up being a favorite way for people to rebuild their characters. Certainly in a game where an enormous amount of experience was required, losing even 1 level would be an extreme punishment. But in Yggdrasil, it was pretty easy to rack up levels into the upper 90s. The developer set it up so that losing levels wasn't such a terrifying thing. Their intent was not for people to be so scared of losing levels that they didn't want to explore, but for them to venture bravely into new territory. Under these rules, were these two who had died in the 1500 man raid now different people? Or were they the reincarnations of the exact characters? He did want to know, but he also felt like there wasn't any reason to wake sleeping dogs. That huge raid might have been a traumatizing experience for them. He also wondered if it was really necessary to prod so much just to satisfy his own curiosity when Aura wasn't showing any hostility. After all, these were loyal, lovable NPCs that his guildmates made. He could talk to Aura about it after all the other pending matters had been taken care of. Plus, it was possible that the entire concept of death had changed entirely. In the real world, dying was the end, naturally, but what if that were different here? Umunga thought he'd like to experiment with it in the near future, but he couldn't determine how high a priority it should be until he had more information. It was probably best to just put it on the back burner for now. At this point, he didn't know how different this world was from Yggdrasil, so all he had was a great many questions. While he was pondering all this, Aura had continued berating Mari. Momonga couldn't help but feel bad for him. He never said the kid deserved this much scolding. When the two sisters in his guild had fought, he kept his mouth shut and just watched, but now he was different. How about we leave it at that? Lord Momonga, but Mari is not fulfilling his duties as a guard. I have no issue with this behavior, Aura. I understand very well how you feel, including your thinking that as a floor guardian, Mari shouldn't be so timid, especially around me. But should the Great Tomb in Nazarick be raided, I believe that both you and Mari would fight fearlessly in the face of death to protect it. If he'll do what needs to be done when the time comes, you don't need to scold him so much. Momonga, who had walked closer to them, grabbed Mari's arm and stood him up. And Mari, you should thank your big sister for being so kind. Even if I were upset after seeing her chew you out like that, there'd be nothing I could do but forgive you. Mari's eyes widened as he looked at his sister in surprise. Aura chimed in hastily. Huh? No, that's not what I did. I didn't think anything like that about you. It doesn't matter, Aura. No matter what your intent was, your kindness came through. I just want you to know that I have no misgivings about Mari being a floor guardian. Huh? Oh, okay. Thank you, little Momonga. Thank you. He accepted their bows, but couldn't help but get the willies from their eyes lit up when they looked at him. He'd pretty much never been looked at with such admiration, so he cleared his throat to hide both his hesitation and embarrassment. More importantly, Aura, I wanted to ask you about what you were mentioning before. You said you're bored when no one is raiding us? Oh, well, no, I mean... From her backpedaling, Momonga could see he had phrased his question badly. No, I'm not accusing you of anything. Please tell me honestly. Oh, yes, it's a little boring. There isn't anyone strong enough to train with around here, Aura answered, looking up at him, poking the tips of her index fingers together. As a guardian, Aura's level was, of course, 100. Okay, so it wouldn't have been that big a deal. There were not so many level 100s in the dungeon, including Aura and Mari, 9 NPCs, plus one other. What about sparring with Mari? Mari had scrunched up as though he were trying to hide, and now a shudder went through his whole body. His eyes glistened as he shook his head. No, he was terrified. Aura reacted with a sigh again. As she exhaled, a sickeningly sweet fragrance filled the air. It was different from Albedo's, a syrupy aroma that seemed to cling somehow. Recalling her powers, Momonga took a step back. Oh, I'm sorry, little Momonga. Realizing what had happened, Aura flapped her arms around to clear the air. One of Aura's passive skills as a beast tamer was the ability to use both buffs and debuffs at the same time. The effects drifted into the air on her breath and could have a radius of dozens of feet to hundreds or more. Using an additional skill could make the range unbelievably huge. In Yggdrasil, buffs and debuff icons would pop up so players understood clearly when they were in effect, but in the current situation, they probably did not. It's okay now. I turned it off. Oh. But, Lord Momonga, you're undead, so psychic stuff shouldn't have any effect on you. That's the way it had been in Yggdrasil. Psychic abilities had neither good nor bad effects on the undead. Was I unranged just now? Aura scrunched up her shoulders in fear of the coming rebuke. Even Mari shrunk a bit. I'm not angry, Aura, Momonga said as kindly as he could. Relax. Did you think you could affect me with a skill you weren't even using seriously? I'm just asking if I was in rage or not. Got it. You were in range. From Aura's voice, filled with relief, Momonga realized how terrible and awe-inspiring he was to her. A prickling pressure assailed him under his clothes in the area where his stomach would have been if he had had one. What if I ended up weaker because of this? The thought of it made him want to run away at full speed. And what was the effect? I think the one from just now was... Yes, fear. He didn't feel fear. In Yggdrasil, friendly fire had been disabled, so players couldn't harm members of their guild or other teammates. Here, however, there was a high possibility that had changed. He knew it would be good to confirm one way or the other right away. I thought it used to be the case that your powers couldn't have any negative effects on people in the same guild group. Huh? Aura's blank expression was matched by Mari's, but Munga gathered that it hadn't been the case. Must have been my imagination. Yes, but I can control the range of the effects as well, so maybe that's how you misunderstood. So friendly fire was on. The reason Mari hadn't been affected was probably because he was equipped with an item that could neutralize psychic effects. Meanwhile, Munga's god items didn't have any psychic resistance data in them. So why hadn't he felt fear? He had two guesses. Basic resistance based on his ability points, or psychic effects immunity due to a special undead ability. He decided to dig a little deeper since he wasn't sure which one was correct. Can you try out some other effects for me? Aura cocked her head and made an odd questioning noise. He seemed like a puppy again, so Momonga reached out to pet her in spite of himself. Her smooth, silky hair was delightful to touch. When she didn't seem to mind, he wished he could just stay there petting her forever, except Mari's glazed stare freaked him out. So he stopped. I wonder what he's feeling. After thinking for a moment, Momonga released his other hand's grip on the staff and reached out to pet Mari. Absentmindedly thinking how the texture of Mari's hair seemed somewhat better than Aura's, he petted them both of them until he was quite satisfied. Then he finally remembered what he'd gotten there to do. Now then, I have a favor to ask. I'm testing out a lot of things at the moment, and I want your cooperation, Aura. At first, the two of them looked like they didn't really know what to do, but by the time he took his hands away, they seemed self-consciously happy and willing. Okay, understood. Leave it to me, Lord Momonga, Aura gleefully replied. She was enthusiastic to get going, but Momonga held her back. Before that, he grabbed the floating staff. Okay, just like before. As he had done when he used the ring's power, he focused his mind on the staff. Of his countless powers, the one Momonga chose was contained within one of the jewels, inside a god artifact, the Moon Orb. Summon Moon Wolf. As the summoning magic activated, 3 beasts oozed into existence out of nowhere. Nothing about a surprise among us, since that was how the animation had looked in Yggdrasil. The moon wolves were similar in appearance to Eurasian wolves, except they gave off a silvery light. Momonga could sense a strange connection between these monsters and himself that clearly indicated who was in charge. Moon wolves? Aura asked, her voice implying confusion as to why he would summon such a weak monster. Moonwolves were extremely fast, as they were often deployed as key units in sneak attacks, but they were only level 20. Too weak for Momonga and Aura, but for their purposes right now, these were fine. Weaker was actually better. Yes, include me in the range of your breath, too. What, are you sure? Aura didn't seem okay with this, so he insisted, it's fine. Things weren't operating completely like they had been in the game anymore, so he couldn't ignore the possibility that Aura's powers weren't working correctly. In order to rule it out, he needed to be hit with her power at the same time as a third party, hence the Moonwolves. Aura huffed and puffed for a little while, but Momonga didn't feel a thing. Partway through, he turned his back to her and relaxed his mind, but there was still no effect. The Moonwolves did seem affected though, as her power must have been working. Therefore, it seemed Momonga was immune to psychic effect. In other words, in Yggdrasil, when subhumans and grotesques reached certain race levels, they gained specific racial abilities. Momonga, who had reached the elite race of Overlord, had the following monster powers. Create upper tier undead, 4 per day. Create middle tier undead, 12 per day. Create lower tier undead, 20 per day. Negative touch, aura of despair, 5? I think. Instant death. Negative guard, dark soul, raven, black halo, immortal blessing, impure providence, black wisdom, evil language proficiency, ability point damage 4, stabbing weapon resistance 5, cutting weapons resistance 5, greater repel resistance 3, greater physical damage immunity 3, greater magical damage immunity 3, chill, acid, electric attack immunity, magic vision, boost, see-through. Add to that the abilities from his class level. Boost insta-death magic, master of dark rites, immortal aura, make undead, control undead, fortify undead, etc. He also had the basic undead special abilities. Critical hit immunity, psychic effect immunity, no hunger/thirst, Poison, sickness, sleep, paralysis, insta-death immunity. Well, duh, on that last one, because he's undead. He's not going to die. Resistance to ghost magic, physical penalty resistance, breathe anywhere, ability point damage immunity, energy drain immunity, the ability to recover from negative energy, night vision, etc. Of course, he also had weaknesses. Justice Light, Holy Attack Vulnerability 4, Battering Weapon Vulnerability 4, Holy Justice Area Ability 4 point penalty 2, Double Fire Damage, etc. It seemed extremely likely that he still possessed both the basic undead abilities and the special abilities he gained from leveling up. I see, that's good enough for now. I thank you, Aura. Any issues on your end? No, everything's fine. Okay, return. The 3 moon wolves disappeared as if time was rewinding. Lord Munga, was that why you came to our floor today? Aura asked, but Mara nodded that he was curious too. Oh, right, no. I thought I'd do some training today. Training? You? Aura and Mara's eyes practically popped out of their heads. What was the most elite caster, the ruler of the Great Two Menagerie who dominated all manner of lesser beings, talking about? Munga had expected this. Yes. The tap of his staff on the ground accompanying his simple reply was enough for them to understand. Munga was inwardly pleased that their reaction matched what he anticipated. It is that the legendary you-know-what? The most elite weapon only you can touch? What does she mean by legendary you-know-what? Munga wondered, but it didn't seem to be anything bad given the sparkle in Mari's eyes. That's right, this is the guild weapon we all created together, the Staff of Ainzul Gon. He lifted it into the air and it sparkled beautifully in the light. It was such a gorgeous display, it was almost as if the staff was showing off. Except it was still exuding that ominous black shiver, so it was hard to see it as anything but evil. Munga didn't have a body type that could burst of pride, so to speak, but the passion was clear in his voice. The jewels held in each of the 7 snakes' mouths are all god artifacts. Since the items are part of a series, collecting them all yields great power. Gathering them took serious effort and an immense amount of time. In fact, there were many times we thought to quit. How many mobs did we hunt for the drops? Furthermore, the power contained within even just the staff itself surpasses god tier and is on par with a world item. Most impressive of all is its automatic reception. I'm totally rambling. It was only natural to want to brag. He'd crafted it with his guildmates, but since he'd never been able to take it anywhere, he'd never had the chance to show off. That was no excuse to gush right now, though. He suppressed the urge to keep boasting. It's pretty embarrassing, actually. Well, yeah, that's about it. Wow, that's amazing, Lord Munga. The sparkles in the kid's eyes make him want to break into a huge grin. Trying to keep a straight face, not that his expressions came through so well. Via his skull, anyway, he continued speaking. Anyhow, I'd like to do some experiments. Can you get things ready for me? Yes, sir, understood. I'll begin preparations right away, and then... Is it okay if we watch? Sure, I don't mind. I'm the only one who can hold it, so you should at least have a look. Yes! Shouted Aura, bouncing around so cute and joyful. Mara couldn't hide how happy he was, either. His long ears were twitching. Oh, man, hey, dignified expression of mine, no slipping. Munga told himself, mobilizing all his willpower. Oh, and Aura, I called all the floor guardians here. They should arrive in less than an hour. Huh? Then we have to get ready to welcome them. No, don't worry about that. You can just wait here for them here. If you say so. All the floor guardians. So Shaltir will be here too. All the floor guardians. Ah, her ear suddenly drooped. Mari was seemed more or less okay. The backstory had Aura not getting along with Shaltir very well, but his case must have been different. How are they going to react? Munga whispered under his breath. Okay, I'm going to check how long I've been recording. Okay, I'm going to end it here, and I'll see you guys next time.